everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the infotainment breakdown on the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek and its 11.6-inch Subaru Starlink infotainment system. In this video, we're going to take a look at how this infotainment screen works, take a look at how to pair up a phone, what Apple CarPlay and Android Auto look like, test out the voice controls, and try to answer any questions you might have about how to use your system. We're also going to take a look at the gauge cluster, even though there's not a whole bunch going on there. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. I've been a big fan of the Crosstrek driving it around. I think it provides a lot of what people are looking for in a car these days, and it does a lot of it without trying to be too much. It's a very honest driving experience. We don't have a super complicated engine. We don't have any sort of really high-tech systems inside to make driving more difficult. Not really many gimmicks. At the end of the day, it just works, and it keeps the cost kind of down as well. This one being just above $32,000. So if you do want to see more on the Crosstrek Sport here, check the link in the description. We've got a sound system demo, we've got a fuel economy test, a full review. Everything will be available at the link below. Okay, so starting up here in front of us with this gauge cluster. Now, I actually quite like the two analog displays right here. Again, it's kind of what I said walking around the car. It's sort of nice that we don't have some big digital display here, adding cost, complexity. No, it's just an analog speedometer, an analog tachometer, coolant temp down there in the bottom left, fuel in the bottom right, and then a center informational digital screen here at the very, very top. It's telling us what direction of MPG we're leaning toward. Right now, obviously very negative since we're just sitting here idling. Below that, you've got a clock, and below that, the outside temperature. Below that is information on the safety systems around your car. We've got some lane keeping assist on right now, and if we were following somebody with the adaptive cruise control, it would show that there's a vehicle in front. Below that, a digital speed readout. I am thankful for that, and admittedly, as much as I like the way the analog speedometer there looks on the right, I don't often use it because I'm simply looking at the digital speedo. Also, quick side note, I'm looking at that analog speedometer and realizing it goes up to 160 miles per hour, which is pretty goofy considering we're running with a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter motor here. It would be lucky to get us up to 120. Below the speedometer there, you've got some information on your vehicle's stop-start system. Right now you see that A with a cross through it. That's telling us that even though we are stopped, the stop-start is not shutting the engine off. It's needed to make power. Bottom left, you've got which gear you're in. If I shift into something like neutral, then you've got an N, R, we've got a reverse there right now, P for park. The little I to the right of that is telling us which drive mode we're in here. I for probably intelligent, and then S for a little bit more of a sporty. Stick an I for this. And then you have a trip meter, trip B, and pressing this button over here on the right, you get trip A, A, B, A, B. And then below that, your vehicle's odometer right there, this one having 2,600 miles on it. You can use this toggle button switch here on the left side of the wheel to go through information there near the top. So like I said, right now we've got clock and outside temperature. Scrolling down, you've got fuel economy average for your trip as well as distance to empty, and fuel economy present as well as distance to empty. A timer since you started driving and how many miles you've gone since you started up the vehicle. You've got, what is that, time since the, time that the engine has been stopped thanks to the stop start and how much fuel you've saved since you reset the trip. You've got tire pressure readout there. We're not seeing anything because we're stopped, but if we started driving, we'd see our tire pressures. What you're listening to right there, and then back to that main clock and temperature screen. Okay, moving on to the center. Like I said, this model, as well as all of, I think everything except for the base Subaru Crosstrek's getting this 11.6-inch infotainment display. As you can see, it is a portrait layout as opposed to a landscape layout. Now, I don't particularly love that. We'll talk a little bit about it when we've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto up. Alyssa says she quite likes this sort of display. It's easier to navigate your hand around, and I kind of get that. It doesn't have to go quite as far away from the steering wheel, but overall it's the type of system we've seen from Subaru for a while now. It does work. It isn't my favorite just because it's very visually busy. There's a lot that captures your eye, and sometimes it's tough to sort of make out exactly what you want to do. And I'm also not a fan of the resolution. It looks very what's the best word to use, toy-like, if you will. It doesn't look like a very crispy, high-end piece of technology, but overall it is particularly functional, so we'll go through how everything works and what we're looking at from top to bottom. Up here at the very top, you've got your outside temperature on the left and then clock in the middle. If we press that clock, then we're giving some clock settings. Your time setting right here, you can actually change the clock to either auto, so it'll just set itself automatically, or if you're someone who maybe likes to set your clock a few minutes fast, you can change it to manual right there. And going back, you can choose a 12-hour or a 24-hour clock format for what you prefer. Moving over to the left, it'll tell you what your volume is set at, actually just if it's muted or not. So if you mute the volume, it tells you that it's muted. And then in the top right, you've got status for your cell phone, your battery status, and your signal right there. Moving on down below, this is going to give you some quick information. I think it's supposed to kind of mirror what some of the older Subarus had up here on top of the dash. So right here, it shows you what music is playing. If I click on that, it'll actually take me right to the media screen. I go back here with this home button. I can swipe through up here and kind of get some quick info. I've got my coolant or water temp there, oil temperature, and acceleration percentage, although it doesn't seem to affect it when I'm in park. Scrolling over, again, you see a little bit of that micro stuttering there, but you've got a weather forecast. I actually quite like being able to have this right here. It shows you now, 3 hours from now, and 6 hours from now what sort of weather you can expect in your area, as well as a high and low. Scrolling over some more, you get your X mode status. In this Crosstrek Sport, we've got snow and dirt, normal, and deep snow and mud. I could quickly switch between the modes right there. Swiping over, that's actually it. So we can go back and keep that on whatever sort of menu you want to have. We're going to skip over this main center section here for a moment and go down below that. You see, starting on the left, you've got a quick button there for your car settings, and there's a lot of settings in the system. It's a little overwhelming, so we're going to try to dig through them all, or at least find the important ones here in a moment. So let's go back home before we dig into that sound setting screen. Here is a quick button for toggling on and off your engine stop start. If you don't want the engine to shut off when you're at a stop, you can click that. This is your main home button, which we've seen before. And then over here is a device screen to manage your devices. When we pair up an iPhone later, I'll use that and show you how to do that. And then over here on the right, that's like an actual driver profile. And if you add a new profile, it's going to allow you to customize the language, which phone is connected, and some of your radio presets and that sort of deal right there. So, and you can actually pair those up to different individual keys. So if you had multiple drivers in the car, you could automatically load up their profiles. Nice to have right there. And then below those quick toggles there, you've got a little bit of a climate control screen. So this is how you're going to turn your climate control on and off. Set the fan speed by clicking through here. Over here, you got air conditioning toggle on and off, and this all button, the new 24 Crosstrek, will actually by default focus the air conditioning just on whatever seats are being occupied. So if I were to press that, then it's only going to focus air conditioning here on the driver. I want to have it in all to sort of encourage the car to not be so hot here while I'm idling, but if you want to save a little bit of fuel, you can have that off. And then if you click in the center area, that's going to bring up your larger climate control menu, and you can scroll things up or down to set temperatures or other things like turn auto on and off for your recirc or kind of where the air is pointing. I don't love having to go through a few different steps just to choose where I want my air to be pointed, but overall, it's not the most confusing system. And admittedly, if you simply have it on auto, then you can just use these buttons to the right and left of the screen that are physical to control what you want your temperature to be set at. So that's the basic layout of the screen. Let's actually dive into some of these individual menus now. I'm going to work my way back up. We're going to start over here on the left with this vehicle screen. So then you click that and it gives you 3 different toggles up on the top here, or middle top, I should say, top of the center section for vehicle control, driving assistance, and then more settings, as if those weren't enough for you. Starting in vehicle control, you've got your vehicle dynamics control. You might know this more as simply traction control. If you turn that off, your traction control is off. Below that, X mode, that's going to give you the same 3 settings that we saw earlier for driving off-road and kind of giving you a little bit more specific control over your drive modes and all-wheel drive. Cruise control acceleration, this is something kind of nice that Subarus have had for a little while here. You've got the adaptive dynamic cruise control here on this model, and for some people that's going to accelerate too quickly to keep up with the car in front of you, and for some people it's going to accelerate too slowly. And so this is how you can actually customize how aggressive you want your adaptive cruise control to be. I like having that. Auto vehicle hold, this is going to make it so when you come to a stop and you push the brake far enough down, the vehicle is going to hold the brake there and actually not creep the car forward until you press on the gas pedal and release you. Some people like having that. Steering responsive headlights, this is something I think is really cool for a car at this price point. The headlights actually swivel in the direction that you're turning. I like having that on. And then auto stop start, again, that's just another redundant way to turn that on and off. You can see when I turn it off, it disables itself down here on this lower bar. And that's all for vehicle control, so let's make it over to driving assistance. This is going to be a lot of your safety settings that the Subaru Crosstrek comes standard with. Pre-collision braking, I definitely want to have that on. That makes it so if something runs out in front of you or stops in front of you, it's going to apply the brakes for you. The vehicle is, for you to try to keep you safe. Forward collision warning, same deal. If it detects that you're about to have a collision, it's going to warn you, but you can customize how close you want to be to something before that collision happens. I'm going to change that to far, but if it's happening too frequently for you, if you're a tailgater, then you can change that to normal or near. Lane departure warning, this is going to either yell at you or actually steer the car back into the lane if you start to drift out of your lane. If you're someone who likes to change lanes without using your turn signal, perhaps you want that to be off. And then rear vehicle detection, blind spot detection, and rear cross traffic alert. That's 2 features in one. There's a little light out there on the steering wheel. You can see if I press this, it lights up there. That's going to alert you if you go to change lanes and there's a car in your blind spot. And then rear cross traffic alert's really nice. If you throw the car in reverse, you're backing out of a parking spot, and there's another vehicle coming in the other direction, it's going to warn you. It's definitely a good feature to have on. Moving over to more settings, this is nice. You can adjust the volume of the warnings. So if you're finding that you like to have maybe lane departure alert on, but it's a little loud, maybe you got a baby sleeping in the back often, you might change that to min. Or maybe if you're old, you need it to really yell at you, switch that to max. And then units. This is if you prefer getting things in kilometers per hour, and liters, you change that right there. Okay, back home, this is sort of your main app screen. They're kind of making it look like you'd see on your phone with the different applications. Starting in the top left, we've got radio. This is pretty straightforward. This is going to give you your Sirius XM, AM, and FM. Did you guys notice how long that took to open up, though? That's one of the things that's bothered me with this system, is it feels so sluggish just to do basic commands like starting your radio. But here's your Sirius XM. You can see your favorites down here that you can scroll through. You could also, can you direct tune? If I wanted to direct tune, how would I do that? Maybe you cannot. You can actually cycle through your channels like that, kind of scroll through. Oh, there we go. There's our direct tune option. Let's do 20. I'm not super familiar with Sirius XM anymore, but we got Spectrum. Okay, Sirius 28. Great. And then you can also go over to your AM and your FM. This vehicle actually has quite a lot of radio inputs, including HD radio and a 3.5mm auxiliary input jack. Pretty surprising. Heading back home, we get our media screen. That's going to give you access to all the non-radio media. So there's your Bluetooth, your USB, iPod connection, auxiliary, and your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Going back home, this is your phone screen. Now, if I press it now, it's bringing up Android Auto, but we'll show you later before I connect to CarPlay what that phone screen looks like. An app screen here. Now, theoretically, you could install other apps to your system here, but it's not like a full-fledged app store like you might have on your iPhone or Android. You're not going to be able to install a whole bunch of things very conveniently. But you do have Sirius XM Travel Link. This is nice for getting a little bit of extra weather, maybe some information on local fuel prices. We can see how we're being gouged here in Lake Forest, although it doesn't really seem to be giving us any actual prices. So I don't know how useful that is, but it can at least show you where the gas stations are. You can get information on the stock market, sports, some basic things right in there. And then the My Subaru app here, that's going to allow you to make a service appointment right here or get roadside assistance. And you can see that's giving you access to your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if it's connected as well. Continuing over, let's skip settings for now and we'll work our way through. My Subaru app, we already saw that. We're going to do Android Auto later. How about car info? That's showing you your pitch and roll angles for kind of your off-road driving, and then it'll show you up here which wheels are getting power set to them, and also a maintenance screen. So not really giving us much information. I don't know. Oh, maybe because it's set to manual. If this were on auto, probably if it weren't a press vehicle, it would be set to auto and show you when you need to change your engine oil, oil filter, tires, and your next, I guess, maintenance schedule. Coming back home and swiping over to see any other things, we've got a display off icon. Press and hold the volume knob to turn the screen back on. So if we don't touch anything for a moment here, then the screen is going to turn itself off. Maybe if you're driving late night, dark country road, and you don't want that extra glare coming up at you, you can turn that off. And if you simply tap the screen, it's going to bring you right to a simple, just kind of climate control adjustment. And if you don't do anything, then the screen's going to turn back off. But if you press and hold the volume knob, then you get the screen back into normal functionality. Valet mode, if you enter a passcode here, that's going to limit the car's abilities if you're giving it to a valet so that they can't access your personal information here and also can't take the car on an aggressive joyride. Auto vehicle hold, there's the ability to engage that and the vehicle dynamics control right there, as well as the steering responsive headlights. That's because you can click here and add shortcuts to a lot of different functionality. So say, for example, you wanted to make a phone call right away. I think you could actually, call contact. You could put something in here. Say if I wanted to call Alyssa right away, would she come up right there? Alyssa Dreyer. I could click that, select her phone number, which I'm blurring out for you guys, and then right there on my home screen, I could have a quick call Alyssa functionality built right in. Some people are going to like that if there's someone who maybe calls their friends all the time or calls their spouse every time they get in the car to head home from work. It's a nice feature. To delete that, you can hold it for a while and then either move it around your screen or drag it here and delete it. So it's a little cumbersome, but also kind of similar functionality to what you might be used to on something like a phone. Okay, going back and diving into this main settings screen, we've got quite a few, so let's breeze through. We've shown you clock before, but let's go down to display. Again, another way to turn your display off. And then you can engage the functionality of this brightness dial over here on the left side of the steering wheel. I like being able to adjust the brightness that way rather than doing it in the screen. And if we click brightness and contrast, you can see that's grayed out because I'm actually controlling it with the physical control over on the left. However, you still can adjust the contrast of the screen to your preferences. You can see I like having a little bit of extra contrast on there. Makes the screen look a little bit sharper. Heading back, you've got a Wi-Fi hotspot option. Now this is actually going to allow you to provide a Wi-Fi hotspot network to other devices in your car. So say you had a child with an iPad and it was Wi-Fi only, you wanted to give them access to be able to access the internet, you could pay monthly for a Wi-Fi hotspot functionality right there. Reminder screen, you can be reminded of certain birthdays, anniversaries, or maintenance. So say you wanted to be alerted here of just any birthdays that are built into your car, you can get that to pop up right there. I think we're going to see more of that as we scroll down here through the settings screen. Valet mode, that's again that option to put in the valet settings that we saw earlier on the main screen. Meter screen, gauge initial movements. When you start the car, if you want the gauges to swipe through, you can have that on or off. Oh, and you can also adjust what you see at the very, very top there. So if you'd rather just see the time and clock, which might be a little more useful to people, you can have that, or your gas range. Again, it's nice having that customization there. Below that, you've got climate control settings, the climate control, customize the climate button. Oh, so down there, that button that's AC, you can adjust what that actually does. Interesting. I think most people would probably want that to just be auto. Okay. Again, love having this customization. Temperature units, Fahrenheit or Celsius. Interesting that that wasn't back in the other unit screen. English, French, or Spanish for your different language options. Same again for tire pressure units, KPA or PSI. Home screen shortcuts, turn those on and off. A welcome screen and a goodbye screen, which simply says see you. It's kind of cute. You can toggle those on and off. Birthday list. Here's where if you wanted to add a birthday to be reminded of, you can put that into there. You can put a name and everything. Same with your anniversary. Below that, software update. You're going to want to check this periodically to see if your system has any updates to do. And near the bottom here, factory data reset. If you sell your Subaru after a while, you're going to want to use that factory data reset before you sell the vehicle to clear out any personal information. Then moving over on the top to the sound screen, there are quite a lot of sound adjustments you can do. The first option is this audio screen. This is how you're going to customize a lot of the audio aspects of listening to your music in this 6-speaker system. Below that, you can change volumes for notifications. You can actually turn on or off the screen beep. I definitely turned it off pretty much right away when I got into this car because there's so much functionality you have to do in the screen that I was getting really frustrated listening to that beep every time I had to touch it. But you can also adjust the volume of the beep so I can make it really loud. I mean, geez, could you imagine driving around in a car with someone who had that beep sound setting? But you can also make it really subtle. Come on. Oh, you can even have it way down here at 1 or 2, just to have it be a very, very subtle beep. You can change the volume for your ringtone, incoming calls. I don't understand how those are different, but call volume, text messages, and voices right there. Continuing on, you've got some phone settings. You can also get to how you manage your devices from there, which is the same as doing it down here below. You can change some settings for your phone book and recent calls screen. The device name of this car right now is just set for Crosstrek. And if you want to be alerted for text messages and set some quick reply functionality, so the ability to just press one of these and send a quick text message, you can customize those there. Swiping over, you've got some settings for radio. FM, you can turn HD radio on and off. You can adjust your bookmarks. AM, same thing. You even got AM HD in here. And then some Sirius XM settings. You can adjust, what do you want? There's a lot of different functionality you can play around. If you use Sirius XM, you're going to want to go in there, check out those settings. And then lastly, we've got a car settings screen. First thing up is EyeSight. This is Subaru's safety functionality. We've seen some of these settings already, like your pre-collision braking, your forward collision warning. A few extras though, the lead vehicle acquisition sound. So when you're using your adaptive cruise control, as you come up to a vehicle that's going slower than you and your car essentially locks onto it, do you want a little beep to let you know that it's acquired that vehicle? I prefer having that off because you're listening to way too many beeps then if you have it on. Lead vehicle moving monitor. This is nice if you are in traffic and you're stopped and then the vehicle ahead of you is going away. This will alert you of that. I think that's a good functionality. And you can adjust whether you're driving on the left or right side of the road. Below that, keyless entry system. So if you want the car to make a beep when you lock or unlock the car, you've got an option to turn that off and on there. Driver door unlock. When you unlock you press the unlock button from your key. Do you want just the driver door to unlock or do you want all of them to unlock? And same with the rear gate. When you press that button back there, do you want just the trunk to open up or do you want all the doors to unlock? Some settings for lighting and defoggers, some welcome lighting. So again, as you approach the car and press the key, do you want the lights to come on for you? One-touch lane change. So as you just press the signal down, do you want that triple click to come up? Auto door lock and unlock. Do you want the door to all the doors to lock as you get up to a certain vehicle speed? Or do you want it to unlock as you come to a stop, shift the car out of park, not happen, or when you open up the driver door? Rear seat reminder, so if you have young kids back there, maybe you want the car to alert you, like it's going to set in default here to let you know that you might have left a child back there. There's again settings for our traction control, the auto vehicle hold that we saw, auto stop start, rear vehicle detection, more X mode settings, options right there, the steering responsive headlights, warning volumes. Again, we saw that earlier too, and then our unit. So a lot of redundant controls in here. Okay, let's take a look at Android Auto. Now, bringing it up here from the center screen, it's not the largest Android Auto display that I've ever used, and that is a little bit frustrating to me because I find myself, even with fairly decent vision, having to really look close and look down and be like, oh, okay, is that what I'm pressing? Not only that, I gotta be really careful with where I'm clicking my finger. I had a situation earlier where I was trying to pause my music, and it took 4 or 5 different clicks to actually hit the proper part of the play pause button there to get it to stop. So that's a downside with this display setup. Still having all of these persistent menus in the screen is that your Apple CarPlay and your Android Auto, not particularly large. But you can see Android Auto does reconfigure itself for this screen layout. So you've got your mapping taking up most of the screen there on the top, and then right now I've got weather and my audio. So if I click on the Google Maps icon here, then I'm going to get a little more of a full screen Google Maps. I can pinch to zoom and drag and drop. Seems decently responsive. Let's bring up my YouTube music and throw up the Super Mix, see what we're getting today. Some Regina Spektor. Okay, that's actually pretty fitting for a Subaru, I would say. And that's going back to your home screen. Let's take a quick look at the call screen as well. Okay, let's head back here. I'm going to have to disable my filming for the iPhone, bring it up here, and connect it to the car. So if I want to pair up an iPhone to the Subaru Crosstrek, I'm going to head into my settings screen on my iPhone and go to Bluetooth, leave that screen open, and then in my center screen here, press this button for manage devices, add a device. It's going to alert me that my Android phone is currently connected. Would I like to disconnect it? Yes, I would. And then the vehicle goes into a pairing screen. And if I watch my iPhone, it should pop up. There it is, Crosstrek. Click it, click pair on my phone, and allow anything that pops up on my phone. Now typically, since I would want to use wireless Apple CarPlay here, I would set that up, but I'm going to wait to enable that because I want to show you guys what the phone screen looks like without having CarPlay connected. Okay, so now if I go up to the phone screen here, then I am given a recent calls, if I had any recent calls, my favorites, if I had my phone book synced up here, and actually let's just transfer the contacts real quick, it shouldn't take too long. There it is. Now I can see my phone book. I can quickly get to any of my contacts through here, and I can see, whoops, I accidentally clicked the weather screen. I'll have to go back. I can see my favorite contacts, although it doesn't seem to be syncing up there, and then text messages as well, and I could dial up a number there with that keypad. Well, let's fire up Apple CarPlay. Here we are, CarPlay coming up and looking the same setup as the Android Auto, although interestingly, a pretty low resolution, not something we typically see for CarPlay. Usually CarPlay is really crispy. I'm surprised to see that. Here's your home screen though. It's kind of getting a half and half setup with half map up there and then a large area here for your media screen. If we go to Google Maps, then it's taking up a little more of the full screen. Not getting any drag functionality. You can't pinch to zoom, and you have to actually click through like this. Interesting. Okay. Is that the same with Apple Maps? Let's see. Okay, yeah, you can't drag around. That's interesting. All right. Differences between CarPlay and Android Auto. Here's your app screen. Let's go to our YouTube Music. That fills everything up, and we'll throw up our Super Mix, see what we got. Apple's given us some Linkin Park. All right, a little bit more edgy there. Fun. And take one quick look at our phone screen. So again, you can see how small some of the icons get. You really have to be precise. Not my favorite aspect of this infotainment system. But the one last thing we've forgotten to do so far is test out the voice commands. Now, if I understand correctly, we don't have the most robust voice command setup here in the Crosstrek, but let's see what we're able to do. Oh, sorry, if you hold that down, you're going to get your Siri or your Apple Car or your Android Assistant. So let's click that.
Please say a command.
Set the climate control to 62 degrees.
Okay. Setting temperature to 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Please say a command.
All right, so you're going to be able to do things like set your climate control. You've got a few functionalities with the vehicle, but because we don't have navigation in this car, we can't do any sort of naving, and it's not a smart system in the way that we could do like jokes or anything. I wonder if we can at least get weather.
Please say a command.
What's the weather like tomorrow?
Okay, showing your weather forecast.
Okay, so it'll give you a little something there, but I do suspect if you've got your phone paired up for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you're probably just going to lean on using those native phone assistants. So there it is, the Starlink system here in the Subaru Crosstrek. Like I said, not my favorite system, but it is functional. It does allow you a lot of customization, so I do appreciate that. And some people are going to like the horizontal, or rather vertical layout. Some people just aren't. But I do like the digital, or the kind of the layout of the gauge cluster there in front of us, and I like having wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. That's big, and getting a wireless device charger for it all too is important. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. I'll try to get to them, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.